Welcome to the Been There, Done That podcast with Angela Dunn-Cartledge. Hi, everybody. This is the Been There, Done That podcast, and I'm your host, Angela Dunn-Cartledge. Thanks for being here, and I'm excited to have this conversation today with my new good friend, MarBeth Dunn. That we are not related to each other, even though Dunn is the reason that I named my podcast this thing. So I am so excited to have you here, MarBeth. Thank you so much for being here.
I know. I'm so happy to be here with you. I love that we have that Dunn connection.
We're like sisters without being born from the same mom, right?
Exactly.
Okay. Why don't you tell everybody why you're here and what you bring to the world?
I'm really happy to be here. I am an intuitive energy and somatic healing expert, and I'm an empath and an intuitive, and I help people to align with their inner knowing, who they are. I help them clear out the blocks to the awareness of love's presence within them. And those blocks can be traumas, they can be just negative energy, they can be just a lot of different things, that we need to evolve into our higher self. And I have been featured in various movies. I was in Bernie's Journey several years ago. We filmed in India on the banks of the Ganges, which was very cool. And I've recently been in the upcoming films, The Art of Manifestation, Frequency of Miracles, and Frequency of Longevity. And I'm just so happy to be here. My greatest mission is to help people to really step into their limitlessness.
I love that concept, and I am just as excited about you being here as you are to be here. I feel like this conversation can go in so many different directions.
Mm-hmm.
I'll start with kind of a softball question, if that's okay.
Sure.
I really want to know how we can know what we want. How can we get to the root of what we really want in life?
You didn't, mess around. You went for the big one.
I thought that would be one, but it's too broad. It's not very specific. So
I have to tell you that many, many years ago, I realized that I stayed confused to avoid taking responsibility of my life. And that was really quite an aha moment, because that lack of clarity really kept me stuck. And how do we know what we want? What makes us sing? Do you know what makes you sing? Does anything make you sing? Make you feel so good about yourself? Sometimes it's just a matter of tapping into your body, because your body it's like an oracle. It knows what's going on with you, for you, what benefits you, what doesn't benefit you, and it lets you know. But we have to learn how to understand the body's messages. And so if you think about something and it makes you feel light and happy, chances are that's going to be good for you. However, if you're on a path and whenever you think of it, it just feels weighted and heavy, it's not the right path.
I love the dichotomy that you just described, because I know that healing ultimately has a positive outcome for us, right? Mm-hmm. That's what we are looking for, especially the audience of this show is looking for ways to heal, especially through those traumas, to your point earlier, and the grief and those kinds of things. So how can we go toward the light, go toward that healing moment, even though we know that in the middle, it may not be as joyful as we would like for it to be?
Well, I think it's really important to shake off the unnecessary parts sometimes we get so crazy busy that we don't know what's going on. For example, today I was feeling just crazy busy, and I realized I really needed to take time and go within. I had to basically shake off the stress. And I mean, literally, I bounce and shake to release it. I learned that in Qigong. And it's just really a great way to come back into your body. It's hard not to be in your body when you're bouncing and shaking. So I did that. And then I sat down and I grounded myself. I grounded myself with roots going down from the base of my spine. I was sitting on my bed in a cross-legged position. I had the roots going down from the base of my spine all the way down into Mother Earth. And I pulled up the energy of certainty, because certainty is a wonderful energy. Because when you're in a place of certainty, you know what you're supposed to be doing. And so I pulled up that energy and I felt it going into all of the cells in my body. And I also then I pulled down the energy from, I guess, my 12th chakra or energy center. I pulled that down. I immersed myself in a bubble that was connected between heaven and earth. And I sat there and I went into that space of feeling certain, and I released. Well, actually, something else happened, because when I was very concerned because I felt like my heart was racing. And that is something that does not normally happen. But I am an empath. And I realize I'm also, I guess, well, uh, I'm a clairsentient. So that's like precognizance. You know that you're going to be meeting with someone or something, and I pick up their energy in advance, and my body is like letting me know. So I realized it wasn't mine. So I cleared that. And then I was fine. I went on to write an email because I have a program coming up in a couple of nights and I'm excited about it. But I also eliminated something on my calendar. I had a 1 o'clock appointment, which I wanted to go to, but I realized that did not benefit me today. I needed to be clear. I needed to be certain in my being of where my path was. And so that's what I did.
I particularly am intrigued by the fact that you, number one, could feel someone else's energy, because I had a very frenetic morning. And so as soon as you said that, I thought, I hope I wasn't affecting MarBeth across the,
Well, here's what you do. Here's what you do. You ask, is what I'm feeling mine? This is my energy. And your body will let you know yes or no. You can do that with muscle testing, or you can use a sway test where, for me, if I say, this is my energy, and my body goes backwards, it's saying no. If it went forward, it would be a yes. So I knew it wasn't mine. And then I sent love and peace, because I kind of went through a list as to who it belonged to. And I realized who it was, and I sent her a lot of love and peace. And then I felt great.
Perfect. Because you can then share your calm and peace with someone else in that way. That's really fascinating. I also really
It's really wonderful to have that warning,
yeah,
because if you don't have that warning and you go into that energy, it can really can wallop you, really.
yeah. Especially because you were already feeling it. You were having the heart racing and all the different
Mm-hmm.
symptoms that were coming along with that. I get that.
Yeah. All good
But
now.
I also really liked that you gave yourself permission to say no to something, that you really did want to go to the meeting, but that you gave yourself permission to say, no, thank you. Talk us through that process and what we can take from those moments, what we can use in our lives.
I think it's a matter of what is determining what is the most important thing that you should be doing. Or I don't like that word should. That's that we're going to cross that one off. What's the most important thing for me today to be doing? And when I checked into that particular meeting, it wasn't that. And again, using that muscle testing, because our bodies love us, and they are always doing everything they can to help us, to message us. I had been getting messages that I needed to do something. And when I did I realized I really needed to meditate and clear myself. And that was more important than that meeting that was coming up. And so that was more important so that I could be here and present with you.
I love it. How can we be more present, to your point? How can we do that on our own? What kinds of things are available to us, and what tools can we utilize to be more present in and understand where our body is in those moments?
How much time do you have?
We can talk about that for hours, right?
We
Right?
could totally go on about that. One of the most important things you can do is to ground yourself, really connect with the earth. Well, that pulls you into your body. Now, most people, they're either up in their heads or they're beside themselves or somewhere out in left field or right field. It doesn't necessarily feel safe to be in your body. And it's because perhaps you have unhealed trauma, or you have, it just doesn't feel safe there. It usually it's the trauma or issues that you haven't dealt with yet. It just doesn't feel comfortable. So if that's the case, then you want to come in gradually. Uh, Walking out on the grass is really good. Just hugging a tree, just coming into your body, listening. I love going outside, listening to the birds, feeling the sun on my skin or a breeze, um, and just feeling that grounding. So you want to basically engage with your senses, because your physical senses will pull you into the body. So what are you hearing? What are you seeing? What are you feeling? It pull you right into your body. And when you're there, you're present. When you are in your body, you are present. And it's a matter, if you're talking to someone, don't scroll on your phone, don't look at your computer, don't look at the TV. Be present with them. Look at them, hear them, and just be there with them. And that can take a little time to get used to. If you're washing the dishes, feel the water on your skin, feel the temperature, notice the texture. And that really pulls you into the present moment. And when you start to practice that, may not feel very comfortable at first. It may take a while to really be present, because it's a habit. It takes some time to learn it.
And it's a practice. I've always loved that yoga and meditation are called practices, because it's not something that we're born just knowing how to do. We have to
Yeah.
learn how to do those. And so I've always loved that they're called practices in that way. I do love too that you're saying being present and being intentional. And so I kind of want to dig into the grief and trauma piece of this. Maybe we have a trauma that we've always known was there. We have a trauma that has always been spoken about and spoken to in our lives. But what if we had a trauma or a grief that wasn't spoken about, that wasn't acknowledged? How can we um, go about acknowledging those things that are sort of, I say swept under the rug a lot, but buried even, or kind of in a container within us?
Our body loves us, as I said, and it will encapsulate traumas that you are not ready to embrace. Perhaps you were too young at the time and it was just too traumatic to deal with. Maybe you couldn't even talk yet and you were so young. And that happened to me. So I'm very aware of that. and you just don't know, but you do know that something is off, something is wrong. And maybe it's something that was, you just couldn't deal with it. Perhaps it was, the loss of a loved one. And I'll tell you something that happened to me, and I talk about it in my book. When I was in college, I was very much in love with a young man, and we were together for about 3 years. But he was Quaker, and my family was very religious Jewish. So what could possibly go wrong there? Um, Things started to get serious, and I broke up with him, and I went numb. I just knew that I wasn't ready at that time. I couldn't deal with it. So fast forward many years, my kids are in college. Well, my older daughter was in college. And I felt like this heavy, we feel grief in our chest. That's yet generally the place. Heartbreak, um, heaviness, sadness, grief. It basically lives in our chest when we have it. And I felt a lot of heaviness and sadness and grief in my chest just at that moment. And so I sat with it and I just allowed myself to feel it. These feelings, when we have them, they want to be acknowledged in our being. And when we acknowledge them, then they understand that we have seen them and we acknowledge them. And then they start to dissipate. Well, all of a sudden, that heaviness turned into a whole burst of, there I was feeling this love for this guy from college. And I have grown kids. And what do you do with that? It came out. And so I had to process that, but it's not a good idea to be, keeping emotions trapped in our body. It takes a lot of energy. It's like trying to hold a bunch of beach balls under the water, all these different emotions that we try to hold, and they don't want to be there. They will just burst out, and that's what happened. So it's a matter of readiness, and we can't force things because your body really needs to feel safe when it's processing. Safety is always key. But I'm very grateful that that came out. I had no idea. I mean, I had just totally repressed it, pushed it way down.
Yeah. I really like your analogy of trying to hold the beach balls under the water because I immediately felt that. I immediately felt what that feels like to try to hold something
Yeah,
underwater that wants to fly out and wants to float. And I've always felt like grief or any emotions, to your point, just are sort of like water. If anybody has ever had a leak in their roof, they'll say that water finds the path of least resistance. It'll go down a rafter and then over here. And where you have the leak inside the house is not necessarily the same spot where the water is coming in on the roof itself.
that's
And that's
true.
what that makes me think of. To your point of what
Mhm.
emotions do, if you try to hold them in, they will find a way out, whether that be physical or mental or some other
Mhm.
manifestation of your life. So I really love the idea that we need to process. I think what keeps us from doing that though is the fear, especially after the fact. When there's been a lot of time since something has happened to us, we think, but we can't go back and do that. That will crush us.
Yeah.
How do you coach people to allow that safety first, obviously, but allow that to be able to flow so that they feel the safest and actually experience what they need to process?
Well, first of all, we check in and see whether it is safe for them to process it. And if not, we don't go there. Safety first is my motto. I learned the hard way with my own. I basically learned by the seat of my pants, and then I studied many different trainings and modalities. But initially, I tried to push through when it wasn't safe, and I would end up with these massive asthma attacks. So I do not recommend that. We use very safe methodology. I use emotional freedom technique, the meridian tapping. And also I have other techniques that I use that are somatic. And, it's all about the body. Your body knows the truth. And you can always get the truth from your body, especially when you're in a neutral and very clear place. So when I'm working with someone, I'm an intuitive. So very often or mostly I know what's going on with them and I can guide them on a path that is for them the perfect path in that moment.
Excellent. So I hear you saying that it takes, especially when the client, the patient, whatever we're calling people in this situation, um, they're feeling unsafe. They really do need someone to hold their hand, to walk them
Mhm.
to the places that they need to go to discern. Right? I
Mhm.
mean, am I hearing that properly?
Yes, and once you're there, it's not that difficult. But when you're that frightened child inside, that you have to also, I do inner child work. I help people with inner child work to help them reconcile with that young child that was so traumatized. And when the child feels safe, then they're more open to exploring the release.
It is it's definitely something that I experienced as well, and so I can definitely relate to that. That the parts work has been really beneficial for me in that she was constantly on high alert. She was always trying to protect, but also she had a protector part that helped her do that. But that was always her goal, was to try and hide from whatever it was that we were going to do that potentially could have risk associated with it. So I
Yeah.
really do, I really do relate to that. Um, where would we what would we step into if we were looking to heal uh, on a bigger scale? I don't mean that trauma and grief can't be a bigger scale. I really am. The way I want to word this is, if we feel that one grief or one trauma, I know they're intertwined, but I'm just using words that I think the audience will grasp onto, that has now affected multiple decisions within our lives. So it happened, I won't even, it was a childhood decision, I'll say a young adult decision, that then had a trickle down effect of decisions since then.
Right.
Do you go back to the beginning, or do you kind of work your way back in that safety zone? I guess it depends on the person, right?
It totally depends on the person because everybody is unique and I have to tap into them individually. And because, I am an empath and I know what they're feeling, I know what's going on with them, I can feel it. So we need to do something individual for every person. Although I do have programs where we can work as a group. And that's good also because we tend to borrow benefits from each other because we're all connected. We're all energy.
That gave me chills. I felt that one. Um, that the What I particularly think is cool about that is that you can be specific to that person's experience, but
Right.
also to that person's healing journey, because even though they may have experienced a similar situation in their childhood, they may take a different path to get to the
Absolutely. What two people could have the same experience. Maybe they were raped, for example. One person would be traumatized for the rest of their life, and the other person could just just shrug it off.
yeah.
Okay, that happened, but I'm fine. And it's not that big a deal for them. So it really has to do with how you perceive the trauma, and your perceptions of it really color the way that you need to release it.
Cool. Super cool. Tell us how you got into this world. How did you find this? What kind of led you in this way?
I was desperate. I was traumatized and desperate. I was living on a mountaintop in Haiti. I was an artist and I was living there with my husband. That's the technical term for a former husband.
I
and
love that. I'm
yeah,
so
I,
much. I hope everybody adopts it. The husband. So
I
great.
know it's not original. It may be original, but not to me.
Okay.
I heard it from someone and I thought, whoa, that's a great description. So, so I suffered. I had bad asthma. I was living on this mountaintop in Haiti in a very difficult and abusive relationship with my husband. And I knew that there had to be a way out. I did not know that my thoughts had power. I was very much in victim mode. So I was constantly looking for something that would help me. So I learned self hypnosis and I went to Miami and I studied for a day with Scientology and learned Dianetics and Idetics and the I Ching, you name it. I was looking everywhere for a cure. And one day, and also I found A Course in Miracles. And one day I woke up with the realization like, wait a minute, I don't need to be a victim. It was kind of shocking, that lightning bolt. I can change my thoughts about things and my life will shift. Now, that was radical for me. And once I did that, all kinds of wonderful things started happening in my life. And I actually felt at one point like I was riding spirit's coattails. I was just felt so aligned in a place of love and forgiveness and safety. And it was a really beautiful place. But there was a lot of work that I still needed to do and to learn the different techniques. Learning, I didn't know that I was an empath. I thought there was something wrong with me. So when I was becoming a Reiki master, I learned, oh, you're an empath. And I was conscious of when I had taken on someone else's energy. And I was able to trace back the day before to when that happened. And I figured out how to release it. So things like that. It's been a lifetime of work, but it's been wonderful because it freed me and empowered me. And I just feel so happy now because I've done the work. But was I guided by anybody in particular? No. No,
Other
I ran.
other than MarBeth. I mean, let's be real. There
Yeah,
was a lot of guiding by MarBeth there to get out of the situation that you were in, but also to learn how to help others to
yes,
grow out of situations too. Super cool. You have written a book. I would
yes, I have.
love for you to tell everybody a little bit
Yes.
more about the book and how we can work with you.
I have written the Awaken the Healer Within, Overcome Stress, Anxiety, and Illness to Reclaim Your Power. And the book was written because I felt it was so important to get this work out to other people. And the last chapter is 21 exercises that people can use to relieve stress and anxiety. We don't need to suffer with them. I used to get panic attacks when I was in college. It was scary. I thought I was having a heart attack. I had that tingling up and down my left arm, and I had a pain in my chest on the left side. I thought I was a goner, you know, but it's all part of the work. And so I can help people who are experiencing anxiety or stress or have trauma in their bodies. And I can help people to reconnect with their bodies so that they can understand what your body's trying to tell you. Your body is amazing. It just knows so much in advance of what's going to happen. And it will tell you what's right for you, what's not right for you, when you learn how to communicate with it. So that's something also that I incorporate in the book, and also good advice for empaths.
Where can we find the book? Where can is the book available on online booksellers
Yes,
or
it's
okay?
on Amazon, it's on Barnes and Noble, and just recently it's up on Goodreads as well. Um, and I recommend it. I think you'll get a lot out of it. I really poured my heart and soul into it, but there's a lot of very solid research that went into it as well. And I felt really good when I finished it. It was definitely a mission to get that together.
I can imagine. I have wanted to write a book for so long that I can imagine that when it came to fruition, that would be a huge moment of accomplishment, but also a huge moment of almost like birth. I can imagine that
Yes,
this that you've been, like you said, that you feel very passionate about, but also feels like a mission that when you get it to the point that it is out there into the world, it now can live all by itself. And that's a pretty cool feeling to know that you created something that now other people can learn from and can consume. It's pretty cool.
yes, it is. It's giving birth to a new baby. It has a life of its own now.
Yeah, yeah, it's your whole like you said, it's your mission, but also it's got a message that has to reach people. I feel like that's the thing about written word that is so critical, that it just it wants to reach a person so badly.
It
Just
does.
itself. That's so cool. I am so thankful for our time together. Thank you so much for telling your story and for being here to help our audience to learn more about what they can do to heal. Where can we find you? What is your, do you have a website? Is
I
there a way for
do.
people to reach out to you?
I have a website. It is marbethdunn.com, MarBeth, just like it sounds. Dunn, just like you, marbethdunn.com. I just also created an author page for Goodreads. I had to create an author page. So it is marbethdunauthor.com.
Awesome. Well, we can't wait to find you. I know the audience will be reaching out to find you ASAP, and I can't wait to continue our newfound relationship and to continue our conversation.
I would love that, Angela. Thank you.